Greetings from the Idiot Box, where we explore the good, the bad, and the wacky in television. I'm Allison Lips, and this episode is about the bad. The very, very bad. It's the end of an era. The last week in television news has been emotionally exhausting for any pop culture lover. First, The Late Show gets canceled. Then Malcolm Jamal Warner, whose most famous role may be Theo on The Cosby Show, passed in a tragic accident while on vacation with his family in Costa Rica. And Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan died. While Ozzy was best known as the lead singer of Black Sabbath, or his nickname, the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy was also among the initial innovators in the celebrity genre that revealed more than we ever wanted to know about celebrities. The Osbournes gave us a peek into the world of Ozzy, Sharon, Jack, and Kelly's lives. Hulk Hogan was also part of that wave with Hogan Knows Best. However, he is better known as a wrestler and commercializing his image with toys and various merchandise in the 80s. Everyone who knows me wants me to address the Late Show fiasco. One of my friends wondered why I didn't put out the Late Show superfan bat signal and do an emergency show. I was on vacation. Also, I saw this coming. I was shocked that the cancellation of a late night institution happened so soon, but I wasn't surprised it happened. Late night as we know it is on its last legs. Gone are the days of Carson, Leno, and Letterman. Conan reinventing his show and then deciding to leave late night and the grind in favor of podcasting and travel shows was the first sign late night was in trouble. The second warning shot was the loss of Seth Meyers' house band on late night. The third was CBS canceling the Late Late Show, replacing it with After Midnight, and then deciding Byron Allen's Comics Unleashed reruns were the best bet because, hey, at least we get paid to air those. New episodes of Comics Unleashed are being filmed, but that was announced after the schedule change was official. Even those who were prepared for the end did not expect the decimation of late night to happen so quickly, or that CBS would pack it up and call it a day. Gone are two cultural institutions. Both were a part of American culture for 30 years. The Late Late Show was on for 28, and The Late Show was for 33. Original host is David Letterman. Other than a handful of shows, mostly news, that have been on for over 50 years, nothing lasts that long on television unless it's The Simpsons or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. While I try to avoid diving into politics on GFib, analyzing television is an inherently political act in a time when valuing different perspectives is no longer a shared value. The Trump administration absolutely had something to do with Colbert's cancellation. CBS and Skydance needed the FCC to approve their merger, and the only way to get the merger done was to cave into Trump's demands and settle for $16 million. As Rick Ellis of Too Much TV pointed out on Substack, quote, one rule of messaging is that anytime someone says, we're making this decision, but not for the reasons everyone thinks, it is almost certainly precisely for the reason everyone thinks. In this case, political reasons and financial reasons, just not the ones CBS keeps putting out there. That The Late Show lost $40 million a year. That may be true, but we will explore that further in depth later. When Trump, who you swear had nothing to do with the cancellation, goes on his social media platform, celebrates the news, and tells Jimmy Kimmel he's next, all but the most naive know that CBS is lying. At the very least, the network is hiding something. That's why late night hosts, fans, and people who are tired of freedom of the press being eroded are rallying around Colbert. Sure, he has 8 months left to wreak havoc and go full Conan, but I wouldn't bet on it. At some point, CBS may decide it is more prudent to pay Colbert to go away than to give him a nightly platform that could jeopardize the bottom line. Right now, everyone over there is playing nicely, but that is unlikely to last long. If Colbert rides out the next 8 months, it will be because CBS doesn't want the fallout from the decision to fire Colbert to get worse. Television lovers are already canceling their Paramount Plus subscriptions and calling for a boycott of the company. If you're one of those people, remember, you can't use Pluto either. CBS emphatically protesting that decision was purely financial does not help its case when the chorus crying that late night TV is too political is loudly celebrating what they perceive as a win as they tune in to Fox News to watch Gutfield. The news also wouldn't continuing covering it as CBS denies it's political, but it's suspicious if there was proof to the contrary. CBS's case is not helped that ABC also gave into the Trump administration's claims of defamation and wrongdoing to the tune of $15 million. And that network's biggest star is next on Trump's hit list. Jimmy Kimmel, he's looking at you. The Writers Guild of America has come out against Paramount for their actions regarding Trump. On July 18th, the WGA sent out a press release stating, and this is a long quote, on July 15th, during a regular show of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Colbert went on air and called the settlement a, quote, big fat bribe, end quote, in exchange for a favorable decision on the proposed merger between Paramount and Skydance, a charge currently under investigation in California. Less than 48 hours later, on July 17th, Paramount canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, a show currently performing first in its time slot, giving vague references to the program's financial performance as the only explanation. For 10 years, the show has been one of the most successful, beloved, and profitable programs on CBS, entertaining an audience of millions on late night, on streaming services, and across social media. End quote. The WGA ends with how Paramount, quote, terminating a show in bad faith due to explicit or implicit political pressure is dangerous and unacceptable in a democratic society, end quote. And goes on to say that they stand behind and fight for Colbert, the Late Show staff, and other WGA members in political and legal matters that concern speaking truth to power. Their words. In this case, the Trump administration coercing media companies into going along with his demands. Unfortunately, late night television is not in a position of strength. Late Night reported last week, 2 weeks ago, that where the second late nighter reported last week, 2 weeks ago, that the second quarter of 2025 saw the late night shows averaging the following viewing totals according to Nielsen. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on CBS averaged about 2.42 million a night. Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC was 1.77 million a night. Late Show with Jimmy Fallon on NBC averaged 1.19 million a night. Late Night with Seth Meyers on NBC, 900,000 a night. Nightline on ABC, which is the only one that is straight news, was 810,000 viewers. After midnight on CBS, 591,000 viewers. Now we're getting into cable. The Daily Show on Comedy Central averaged 994,000 viewers, and Gutfield on Fox News received the most viewers on average, despite being available to fewer households. And Gutfield averaged 3.29 million viewers a night. That puts Gutfield on a network that reaches fewer households than ABC, NBC, and CBS. Over 900,000 viewers ahead of Colbert. Additionally, we're talking totals and not just the 18 to 49 demographic that is still the most desirable for advertisers. If we narrow it down to the 18 to 49 age group, Kimmel beats Colbert by 1,000 viewers on average, which means they are pretty much tied. 1,000 viewers doesn't make much of a difference, and CBS tends to skew older anyway. To put things in perspective, I'm 34. I was a year old when Carson signed off The Tonight Show for the last time. So, the biggest late night event in my memory was a late night host giving up his dream of hosting The Tonight Show for a Twitter account, a national tour, and then going to a cable channel. Conan then springboarded from basic cable to a well regarded podcast. We're almost at the point where people know Conan as the guy with the podcast and a travel show rather than the host of two American institutions, albeit one he hosted for 7 months. With viewership levels that low across the board and long-term hosts like Conan and Letterman choosing to give up their late night shows for other projects, late night in its traditional form doesn't have a bright future. Remember, it was only 11 years ago when Letterman averaged 2.5 million and Leno over 3.5 million, and it was a big deal that those ratings were so low. Going back further, 33 years ago, Carson pulled in 7 million people a night on a regular basis, and at his peak, 9 million people watched when they probably should have been sleeping. There's a reason the old joke about all the kids conceived during Carson has not been reused for the other late night hosts. We no longer have a monoculture. Even if we ignore the politically motivated culture wars, everyone wants to watch what they like and no longer has to watch random nonsense to find it. That's why variety shows don't exist anymore, and every effort to revive them has failed. With the caveat that I do not have any outside information and cannot confirm CBS's numbers, it is not only possible, but feasible that Colbert can be the biggest star on CBS and his show was canceled because it was losing $40 million a year. Now, before you try to sell me a bridge, I am fully aware that Colbert's cancellation was political despite CBS's instance. It wasn't. Yet the economics of late night television no longer work. And when the government actively hates a network's biggest star, it doesn't make sense to fight on behalf of a show that operates financially underwater under the best circumstances. Could Colbert streamline the budget and have reformulated the show to something cheaper? Probably, but CBS had no incentive to let them. There is a demand for late night type programming, but expectations need to be lowered. We also need to admit that large budgets are no longer justified. The Late Show costing CBS $100 million per year to make is insane when the talk show in its most basic form only requires a microphone. You can skip the desk and chairs if you have no budget. Creating a talk show isn't hard. Creating one people are interested in or keeping one going until people notice is the challenging part. No one knows what they're doing in a media landscape constantly in flux that shows no signs of stabilizing because the latest trend is always 2 weeks away. It's not because executives are incompetent, although I'm sure plenty of people will argue with that. The biggest contribution to the chaos is that media has changed extremely fast and businesses contain too much inertia to adjust quickly. Add in a president that wants control of the media and openly requests some sacrificial lambs, and you have media companies being attacked from all sides. The bottom line is that The Late Show's cancellation was CBS throwing Colbert under the bus to appease Trump, knowing that Paramount could hide behind the $40 million a year loss as justification. It didn't work because Paramount failed to realize that two facts can be simultaneously true if they are not inversely dependent on each other. Losing money doesn't negate Trump's role in the cancellation. It just provides evidence that Paramount will cave and use a somewhat more legitimate excuse to dodge the real issue. CBS is no longer an independent company that can be relied on for unbiased news when its comedians will be sold out to curry favor with the Trump administration. There have been comparisons to CBS's treatment of the Smothers Brothers during the Vietnam War, But I am not ready to evaluate how accurate those comparisons are when my main goal is to protect my sanity as I figure out the best way for me to protest the government's attacks. In the meantime, remaining dedicated to media literacy and education is how I am resisting, hence this podcast. Until next time, I'm Allison Lips for Greetings from the Idiot Box. Remember, television is a medium neither rare nor well done. Bye.